Well, hello and welcome to Speakeasy. I am still Paul F. Tompkins, and my guest this time around is an actor and a writer and a director. That's right, you heard me. And now please say hello to Julia Stiles. Julia, hello, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers to you.
Salute.
Very refreshing. Welcome to Los Angeles,
Thanks.
where you do not live.
I frequent Los Angeles,
You
spend many
do?
months at a time here working.
Yes.
Luckily, but I live in New York.
Now you grew up in New York, New York. You grew up-
Manhattan.
yes, in
Yeah.
Soho.
Yes.
Now, all of my friends who are New Yorkers of a certain era will pine for the days when New York was a filthier place.
Right? Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Well, are you one of those people?
Kind of. When I walk through Soho, I get sad because it is it's so beautifully renovated.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
Well, I feel like I sort of get it. Because when you grew up in a sort of artistic family.
Yeah.
But it was not exactly the Royal Tenenbaums. It was, you know, there was, the streets were dirty.
Yeah, my mom's an artist. She had her studio in our loft in Soho, and they were like, it was mostly like an industrial neighborhood where across the street there was a textile factory, and down the street there was a chocolate-covered cherry factory, and there were like a couple, smelled really nice.
Sure.
There were a couple of other families, but it was pretty desolate. My parents had 3 or 4 cars stolen from parking garages outside on our street. It was I can look back with pride at that time, but it was a thing of pride to live in.
Absolutely.
In a place where nobody in their right mind would want to raise kids.
And it added a certain texture to life that probably feels absent when you go back and see it now.
Yeah, it was because it was all about like, there was a lot of really great graffiti art that is all gone now. I kind of miss that. I mean, really like beautiful murals and tags, and now it's mostly expensive clothing stores.
Right.
Just something missing
Do
about
you ever feel like just getting a can of spray paint and just going to town on those clothing stores? Just the face of J. Crew.
Sure, absolutely. I used to tag on the city bus.
Is that so?
Yeah, when I was in like middle school.
Proper tagging or scratchiti?
Oh, scratchiti. Thanks for that new word.
No,
It was scratchiti. Yeah, it was like we would sit in the very back of the city bus and key on the windows.
Now, was this your name, or did you have a tag?
I had a tag that I'm not going to tell you because it's so offensive in retrospect. I didn't know.
Oh.
No, and we would just write like 1-800 eat shit, that kind of thing. That's just like, we thought we were really cool and bad, and you know, it turns out we were just silly.
Well, it's certainly
And if
not.
I saw those kids on the bus
Yeah.
now, I would be really mad at them. I would reprimand them.
I'd be terrified of those kids.
I wouldn't.
Oh, I have a fear of teenagers that persists to this day. It's the
Really?
same fear that I had of other teenagers when I was a teenager that has not changed as I've entered into adulthood.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I've become like the old lady that will be like, were you raised in a barn? I saw these kids on the subway, like literally sitting on the floor of the subway, and they were on their phones, and the girls were dressed like hookers, and they were probably like 12 years old, and I eventually was like, were you raised in a barn? Get up, because it's dirty.
Why were they sitting on the floor of the subway?
Exactly. Why was I reprimanding them, first of all?
Well, you're doing your part. You're trying to give a little back.
I was in a bad mood or something, I don't know.
When I was a kid, there was hypodermic needles all over the place. You couldn't sit on the floor.
Exactly.
Exactly, I understand. You are working on, it seems like a million different things right now.
True.
You have movies coming out. You have, there's a couple of web series that you've done. Blue, which just finished its second season. The second season is coming up very soon.
The second season will air soon. Yeah, we just finished. This is the crazy thing about web series, as you know, that you make them and they come out like 2 weeks later.
Yes.
Yeah, we finished shooting that at the end of the year, and it'll come out in the springtime, I think.
Tell me about Blue. This is, you play a young mother of a teenage boy, and you're having a little trouble making ends meet. And so you take a second job, as it were.
Yeah, why not?
Which is?
Having sex with men for money.
Sure.
Because why not?
Not to put too fine a point on it.
Or women, actually. You know, I
Oh.
don't want to rule any clients out.
Right, certainly. So having done 2 seasons of this, do you feel like you have a pretty good understanding of the sex for hire community?
Oh, well, no, it's interesting because for me, I was always sort of reluctant to play an escort, call girl, prostitute, whatever. I just feel like there have been a lot of stories about that, and
Yes.
I also was a little afraid of it. But the interesting thing for me about Blue and what appealed to me from the beginning was that you see her in all walks of life. So you see her as a mother, you see her as a good friend, you see her in her daily life with a day job, and then you also see this secret life that she has. The idea of like playing a character that is is lying to herself and also to everyone around her, and in very much in denial about this double life that she's leading, is really intriguing to me. When I started to do research about and like just talking to women who work in the sex industry, it can get really, really sad and really dark. So do I have an understanding of it? No.
Right.
I just show up and say my lines.
You certainly have more information about it than you probably did before.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many, there's a huge spectrum of like, you know, high-end, expensive call girls and what that calls for, and then also the darker version of Pretty Woman, I would say. The streetwalker kind of
exactly.
thing. And also in the world that Blue exists, there's such a gray area of like pretending to go on a date, and so that it's maybe not as explicit as you know, or as crass as like here's money and this is what you're expected to do.
Yes.
Although in the second season things get a little bit more I don't know, I guess dark or scary for the character that I play.
Yeah, which was probably inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, and we wouldn't be doing anyone justice if we wrapped it up in a pretty bow.
Right. So this is the first time you've played a sex for hire character.
Right.
So is it a combination of you hadn't seen the right script and most of these stories are not that interesting? I mean,
it was mostly I hadn't seen anything sort of new, and I mean, okay, so Rodrigo Garcia, who wrote and directed Blue, contacted me and he sent me the script, and I'd always wanted to work with him, but I was a little bit reluctant. I was like, web series, I don't really know what that means these days. And he was excited about the idea of creating scripted content for the web and have it be kind of like an art project where you can tell the kinds of stories and make the kinds of shows that if you had a studio involved or if you had a network involved, it might be more difficult and certainly it would take a longer time to even get set up.
Yeah.
So, but I also, by the way, am a little bit shy. So I was like, why would I play a call girl? I'm not gonna, like, I'm not the most comfortable or exhibitionist, as it were. So I'm a little bit old school that way. So, but I read it, and the first scene, the first episode, which each episode is only like 7 minutes long because it's the web. The first episode I was sold because I thought the premise was so exactly what I find fascinating about, or the reason to tell a story like this, because the first scene she's caught between her secret life and her real life, so to speak.
Right.
So one of her clients is somebody that she went to high school with, and the idea that she gets caught, and also that she would be treated differently in each of those positions, is really interesting to me. The idea, it just brings up the whole idea of like the stigma of, you know, of that job.
Your other web series, Paloma.
Yes.
This is something you have written and directed.
Yeah.
Now you've directed before.
A few years ago, I directed a short film that Zoe Deschanel is in, and it went to some festivals, and but that was back when short films were like 25 minutes long, which now is an eternity for our short attention spans.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, Paloma is so the series that I acted in, Blue, is on a channel called Wigs. And when they came back to me and said they wanted to do a second season, I said, I have an idea for another show that you could have on the channel, and could I direct it? And they said yes. And I was going to make it just like a short film because I really like short formats.
Yeah.
Maybe just one episode, you know, however many minutes long. And they asked me to expand it into multiple episodes. So. We made 4, and they should air after Blue, I guess.
The experience of directing, you know, an ongoing story, was that positive? Was it more challenging than you thought? Less challenging than you thought?
It was great, actually, because originally Paloma was supposed to only be 2 characters, and then I was driving to work one day, and I thought, I keep referencing this other person. And I started to think, well, who is that character? And let me, it expanded in my mind, and so to have the opportunity to actually shoot that was great. I even had it originally as 3 episodes. We were in prep, and I had 3 episodes written, and then all of a sudden, I was listening to the radio, and the idea for another scene popped into my head, and because of this web studio that had been set up, I was able to call my producer and say, I know you're going to hate this budgetarily, but creatively you might really like it. I want to add an entire other day of shooting with a whole other scene and and they were game. So that's the kind of thing that you can't really do if you were working with like a movie studio or a network.
Yes, that's usually days get added, and it's bad news for everybody.
Right.
That days are being
Except
added.
the director.
Yes. Right. Now, speaking of directing, are there moments as a director who is an actor? Are there moments where you just feel like I don't want to be in charge of everything?
Yeah.
Because it's a huge responsibility. You have to keep everything kind of going in your brain. You have people that help you out, certainly, but you do have to be able to kind of see the whole field and what's going to happen.
There were a couple moments in prep where I was like, there is no crying in baseball. You just have to, like, I couldn't even indulge thoughts of I don't want to be in charge, or can somebody else be responsible for this? And actually, I really loved the idea of like, there's nothing better than when you get on a set and the thing that was in your imagination it now has taken on a life of its own, and there are actual people saying your lines, and other people like the set designer and the costume designer have put their work into creating this thing that was just originally, you alone at a computer. To me, that was so invigorating that I was really happy to be in that position. And also, sometimes if people ask you a question, it's very easy to go, I don't know, what do you think? And take other people's ideas. I found it really exciting too, because there's something about, I love acting, don't get me wrong, but there's something about being in the driver's seat, it's a bit like being able to dictate a schedule or problem solve too. Even the worst possible thing that could come up that would slow production down, or I just would learn to work with it.
But does it take a moment though, when something borderline catastrophic happens, where perhaps your first instinct would be to freak out, but you can't do this in front of everyone.
Right.
Did you feel like you were able to take that moment and think about what your response was going to be, or was that something that you had to learn on the fly?
My mantra was just like, well, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. We'll figure it out. Also, to be fair, what I was shooting was on a sound stage. I had written it very specifically for the parameters of our channel.
So it's very contained.
It was very contained,
Yes.
And even though there are plenty of things that can go wrong.
But nobody's driving by honking their horn.
No, and there's
ruining
no
your shots.
helicopters or like
Right.
big crowd scenes or it was all I wrote it to be something that I could manage. Plus it's all about, for me, like what's the most interesting is people and what the actors are doing. So that's what I focused on, and to a certain extent that can be controlled.
So you didn't make it a thing where the city was the 5th character?
No.
It's always New York too. And New York is really like a character in the movie. That's
Right.
never true, right? I don't want to name any names because I don't want to offend anyone.
Oh, please do.
But maybe later.
Okay.
Every once in a while, there's a movie that comes out that's set in New York, and then in the interviews, someone will always say, it's like New York is a character in the movie. Now, have you ever seen a movie, and you are a native New Yorker, have you ever seen a movie set in New York where you felt like the city was another character in the movie?
Yes.
Please tell me which one. Let's count them down. Number 5.
First of all, any movie that Woody Allen's ever done, New York is always a character, right?
But that's what they say.
Panic in Needle Park, right?
Okay.
Do the Right Thing, right? That was the Spike Lee in New York, right? That's 2 plus everything Woody Allen's ever made. No, and I could think, Desperately Seeking Susan.
Yeah,
I think that New York was kind of a character.
I forgot that was set in New York.
Do you know that I saw Desperately Seeking Susan in the theater that is in the movie?
Which
Think about
theater's
that.
in the movie?
It was Bleecker Street Cinema on Bleecker Street. Then became Kim's Video, and now it's probably like a Rite Aid or something.
I like to see movies at the Angelica because sometimes I feel like the subway is a character in the movie.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is true. And you can never really tell if it's like the subway or if you go see a movie that has an earthquake in it, it could be either or.
I saw the movie Speed at the Chinese theater, and there's a scene where the bus does it even crash into the Chinese theater? I forget, but you see the Chinese theater on the screen, and people lost their minds. That's a wonderful thing about seeing movies in Los Angeles. If you see the place where you are on the screen, people will erupt.
I feel like Day of the Locust too. Remember that movie where there was like a
long
big
time ago
where
I
there
saw
was Francis Black, I think, is in it. But right outside on Hollywood Boulevard, outside the Chinese theater, there's supposed to be that riot for a premiere. It's
been a while.
That Los Angeles is a character in that movie /
But
book.
now,
Or they should have a simulated ride at like Universal Studios where you're in Grauman's Chinese Theater, and the speed bus is supposed to plow into the theater that you're in, and they make you know what I mean?
I thought there was going to be a Day of the Locust ride at Universal Studios.
Either one.
Either one.
They would both work.
And flip of a coin.
Somebody
We'll
call
see.
somebody.
Absolutely. Now you have a movie coming out called It's a Disaster, in which you work with my old friend David Cross.
Oh.
We were on. I was a writer and performer on Mr. Show way back.
I love
when.
Mr. Show.
Yes. You
Kudos
may
to
remember
you.
me as a slightly fatter person from back then.
I'm
not asking you to
visualizing
do
it
it
now.
now.
No. I mean, I knew that you were up for Mr. Show, but I didn't. Okay. Yeah.
Do
I
not
can see
visualize it now.
I can see it. I'm trying to think of the polite answer to that. Because if I say no, wait.
Well, no, I've opened the floodgates.
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
You
fat.
look great.
Well, thank you very much.
Are you vegan?
No.
Are you raw? You're raw.
I'm not. Oh, can you imagine? Have you done raw?
I mean, a little bit.
That's a tough road to hoe. You mean a little bit, meaning like you've eaten raw things in your life, but not that you've embraced the raw lifestyle for a little bit.
Like a mint leaf in my drink.
Sure. Apples.
No,
certainly.
no. Mr. Show is really awesome. Yes, David Cross is in It's a Disaster. He plays the guy that I bring to my date that I bring to this couples brunch, where 4 couples get together on a Sunday just for fun, and slowly all the technology goes out. Like the guys are trying to watch football and they can't access the TV. Nobody can get internet access, and we realize that it's the end of the world. Like there's a dirty bomb that went off somewhere downtown, and we aren't supposed to leave the house because of radiation poisoning.
Right.
And disaster ensues. Comic disaster. No, but it's all the the problems in the different relationships surface because we're all in denial about the fact that our lives are going to be over soon.
Right. Do you enjoy doing comedy?
With David Cross, yeah, he makes it easy because I mean all the improv that we did, it was basically like he just serves up perfect pitches every time.
Yeah. Because you're not a stranger to it. You've done a fair amount of comedy over the. I mean, I think that you're very well known for your dramatic stuff. But there's a good chunk of comedy that's mixed in.
I
your resume.
like darker comedy, and also the kind of comedy where you're not trying to be like the pressure of telling a joke set up in punchline isn't there. So, It's a Disaster is very much. It's a different kind of humor. It's not like one joke after another. It's the kind of thing that actually is funnier even the second time that you watch it, because sometimes it's so deadpan, like some of the lines in this, that I think it gets better with multiple viewings.
Yes. You're a big music fan.
He is.
You consider yourself a frustrated musician.
Yeah. I just have, I mean, maybe I'm not alone in this.
No, you're not.
Karaoke is so fun, and I
Sure.
always, have little rock star fantasies. But I love music, and I just wish that an instrument had stuck more.
How many instruments have you tried?
I bought a drum set.
Oh wow!
When I it's funny because it's so stupid that I think that I could play the drums in a New York City apartment.
No.
I know. It's fine. You can say it.
Well, there's that certainly, but it's the commitment of I'm going to get a drum kit. Like how many pieces?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's, 5 pieces at least. Yeah, it was a lot.
And this is not knowing how to play the drums.
Not knowing how to
You
play
said,
the
I'm going to get, and it's all going to happen.
I liked Animal from the Muppets, and I thought that the drums would be really, really fun.
He makes it look easy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Meg White. Like, I just thought it would be great tension release.
Right.
And then, of course, my neighbors complained, like, instantaneously.
Right.
So the drum set is now in my storage closet. Then I have a piano, actually, and I've been trying to take piano lessons off and on for years. I know about 3 songs, but I travel so much that I can't really consistently do it.
Are those songs Jimmy Crack Corn?
Chopsticks,
Sure.
Heart and Soul.
Right? The problem is, I find, with learning to play a musical instrument, is that you have in your head how great it's going to be when you can just bust out a song. And then you have to start with like scales and things like that. And it's very frustrating. But I mean, is your excuse that you're traveling all the time and so you don't have the time to...
No, and I actually like all the baby stuff. I like musical theory.
Do you really?
And I find I can get really focused on that.
Are you a good student? Do you like to learn?
I do, but I need like a teacher to I need to set the appointment time of having a teacher come and teach me, because if I actually have a ukulele, and I was like, oh, perfect travel instrument, but do I ever sit down and actually try and teach myself some chords? Not that much, I'm not gonna lie. It's collecting a little dust.
Are there instruments with less strings?
Is there a 2-stringed instrument?
There might be I think there might be an Asian
3?
instrument that's 2 strings.
There is. I've seen them on the subway. It's the 2 strings and then the little bow.
There you go.
So technically that's like 3, but...
Is that your next move?
Maybe. That would be, the other thing I've thought about is like, why would you want to learn how to play guitar? Because you'll never be Robert Plant. Like, if you ever had friends who are, I have a lot of friends who are musicians, they would never go, you know what? I really need a guitarist tonight, can you help me out? Because I will never be that good. So, but if I learned how to play the Chinese instrument with the 2 strings and the bow, if they ever need that, they'd call me.
Yeah. And certainly no one's going to say, they won't even know who to compare you to. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they can't hit you with the Jimmy Page analogy.
Right.
I mean, that's a trip to Wikipedia at least to find out, first of all, what's that thing called?
What is that thing called?
Who's the master of it?
Do you have your phone on it? Can you check it? Okay. Sorry. I'll look it up later.
You're also a big baseball fan.
Mm-hmm. I'm a Mets fan. I'm a long-suffering Mets fan.
And so I believe in 2006, was it?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah.
You got to throw out the first pitch at the opening of their season.
Yeah.
How did you do?
I got it across the plate.
There you go.
And I stood at the mound.
Nice, very nice. Because they give you the option of standing sort of in front of the mound.
Yeah.
But you said, no way, I'm going to stand on that mound.
I said, no way, Jose.
Oh, I didn't know who you were talking to.
I mean, it was an amazing experience. I had practiced a lot beforehand with my dad.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I'm a girl, and not that girls can't throw baseballs.
No.
Sorry, but I can't throw a baseball.
So you're a baseball fan, but you didn't grow up playing.
No, because they don't really. I mean, I know I played soccer, but they didn't have a baseball team at my high school.
And softball never entered into your life.
I'm not very good with hand-eye coordination.
Do you think that's part of your musical instrument problem?
Probably. Probably.
What if you tried not looking at the strings?
I don't know if that would make it easier or harder.
If we're talking about that 2-stringed Asian instrument, you don't have to look at that thing ever. I don't even think you can, right? It's not a neck thing. Is it a cello sort of setup?
I've never really paid that much attention to it, but the next time I'm on the F train, I will.
We really should have looked it up.
Yeah.
Julia Stiles, thank you very much for being with us. And good luck to you in your life
You as well.
of music.
Oh, thank you. I'll let you know how it goes, but thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure.
I hope so.
And motivation to actually follow through with my musical endeavors.
Thank you for watching Speakeasy. Please join me again next time when my guest will be a different person. I'm very excited at the idea of you learning that instrument and its name.
Well, its name, certainly. That's first and foremost. Do you know that I think that it would be really fun to come out with a rap album. I'm going to come out with a rap album.
All right.
Because you don't need to play an instrument to do that.
True.
It's going to be covered.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and check back every Monday to see who I interview next. And for more info about Speakeasy, visit mademan.com.